5 years.
We'll be selling tickets for that October 23rd, the 28th, and the 31st. And so look for that in the Suncatcher, and there'll be communicator reminders also for that one. Dan, you want to talk about Veterans Day, please?
Yes, it's gonna happen. Yeah, just very briefly. Just very briefly, Veterans Day again is listen to the president. It's November 11th. Hello there. Much better. Use the right, use Jim. Yeah, November 11th, Saturday is Veterans Day. You'd be surprised how many people say, well, when is it? Well, it's November 11th. We do have our guest speaker, Jennifer Gutowski from the Veterans Administration here in Tucson will be our guest speaker. We're lining up Boy Scouts to do the color guard and flag ceremony. We have our buglers lined up. We are ready to go. I could use volunteers as greeters. If you want to do that, anything you would like to do in support of Veterans Day, wonderful. The program starts at 9:30 and it's probably over by 10:30, and we'll be treated by the Sunflower Corral again this year under a new director. So that'll be exciting. And we'll have donuts and coffee and juice refreshments after the program. So tell your friends and neighbors, we need to fill up the parking lot and we're ready to go. Remember, when is Veterans Day? The day after the Marine Corps birthday.
Easy to remember, yes.
Thank you, Dan.
Carol.
Easy to remember.
Well, once again, Tim has come to our rescue. He has a program, a reporter program of a Korean vet. And we were going to show this maybe later in the year. So since our speaker is not here today, thank you very much, Tim, for stepping in.
I'm taking so many pills now. I had a slight heart attack in May, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I take a handful of those too.
Yeah. Those are those
Let me know if you need some water.
fish oil.
Yeah. Do you take blood thinners then too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you tell? Yeah.
You know, I take Eliquis and Plavix both,
Yeah.
and fish oil, and I don't have that problem. But my brother takes the same thing, and he's like you. He's got a bunch of bruises.
Version, that's his low
So I
rock.
don't know what the difference is. What? I must be tough skinned or
Must
something.
be tough skin.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me so you know, and you know the story because you've heard it.
I was there when you gave your
All right, well then,
I really enjoyed it.
yeah, so we've both been in combat situations in foreign countries. I think the best thing I ever heard was when that Korean lieutenant got up and said, I thank you because you're a group of people who came to a country you didn't know to help a group of people you never met.
No.
And I think, you know, I think I do Vietnam podcasts, I do Iraqi. Every one of us have done exactly that thing. We've went to foreign countries and helped people none of us have ever met. So a great thing.
It was.
So Doc, let's start out with the war started in June of 1950 over in Korea. What were you doing then?
I was at Bethesda Naval Medical Center in Washington, D.C. I was stationed there.
And you did, what was your MOS?
My MOS was, I was a psychiatric clerical technician.
And then did you volunteer then to go to Korea? Or
They volunteered me.
They volunteered you, which is usually how it goes. So when did that happen? What part?
1950.
Oh, right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning. They were calling up corpsmen from all over the world. Ships, hospitals, clinics,
Wow.
wherever they could get corpsmen.
So did you work then with the Marines in the field?
No, I went to Camp Pendleton and was assigned to the 1st Marine Division as a corpsman.
Yeah, you Navy guys get to luck out that way, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Now, when we got to Camp Pendleton, we were assigned to different companies and battalions, regiments, and our regimental commander was Chesty Puller. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I haven't.
The most decorated Marine in Marine Corps history.
Wow. And you served with his unit.
He served in that regiment, yeah, 1st Marines,
So you left Camp Pendleton, went to Korea.
yeah.
Marines obviously fight in the field, so you're with them to take care of them. How long were you in Korea?
I was in there 8 months, from Incheon clear through till May the following year, 51. So I
that-
was in 4 campaigns, 4 battles.
That was right at the toughest time. That's when China and Russia were backing up the North Koreans.
Right.
And you came in, South Koreans weren't doing very good. And you guys took care of that line.
Well, it's a long story. I could probably start from the beginning.
Do that, would you?
And, well, I was at Bethesda at the Naval Medical Center, and I got orders to Camp Pendleton, 1st Marine Division. And when I got to Camp Pendleton, I was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, 1st Marine Division. And we had, well, we didn't have any training as far as combat or anything like that. We were just assigned to our regiment and our battalion, and I was assigned to the H&S Company, headquarters and supply, in the battalion aid. And I think we were there about 15 days, maybe less than that. The next thing I knew, August 7th, we were on a ship going to Kobe, Japan. Yeah. And it took about a 14-day ship. A lot of people got seasick, including myself, and I never wanted to be a ship sailor after that. I was just glad I was with the Marines. Yeah. So after Kobe, we had about 3 or 4 days, and then they said, well, we're boarding, we're going in. They didn't tell us what we were going to do until the day we were on the ship, and they said we're going into Korea, a place called Incheon, and that was September the 15th. I was on an LST, and it was an old LST from World War II, and we had a little mechanical trouble, so they had to kind of tow us into the Incheon harbor. So that was on about the 14th of September. So in the morning of the 15th, there was so much noise, heavy bombardment, and planes going in and strafing. And the 5th Marines went in early that morning because of the tide. The tide was a big factor because it rose so quickly and went down so quickly. So we were scheduled to go in at 4:30 in the afternoon. In the meantime, I was watching these other units going in those Amtraks. And as I was watching them, I'm saying, I hope this isn't another Iwo Jima or Tarawa or Saipan. And evidently they secured the beachhead. The Marines that went in that morning secured the beachhead. So we went and got on our Amtraks on the LST, and then when the ramp went down, we were in this floating Amtrak, and I thought we were just going to go right down to the bottom of the sea. But we went in, we went to the wrong beach at first. We were on Blue Beach, and we finally got on to the beach, and there was no resistance or anything because they had really shelled Incheon, and that first group that went in secured the beach. So we were there, and I was with an old buddy that I was serving with in Bethesda that had already been with the Fleet Marine Force. And I was so happy to be with him, so we were assigned to our different units and everything. So when we got in, we asked each other, what are we doing here? What the hell are we here for? So, and the Korean never heard of it before, didn't know where it was, didn't know the people. And the first thing that I caught my attention was the smell, because of the fertilizer, they fertilize their crops. So that was one of the first things of Korea. The first thing I knew about Korea was the smell and all the destruction and all the noise, and the battleships were shelling and the Corsairs were going in. And so we spent the night, and the next day we were assigned to the main line of the main route into Seoul. And
just history-wise, the North Koreans had taken Seoul by that time.
Yes.
And your job was
to
take it back.
Take it back. Am I on the camera now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, we were on that MRI, the main road to Seoul, and the second day we came into our first contact with. We got a lot of mortars coming in, and one of the companies had already knocked out 3 tanks, North Korean tanks. So we were able to, after they cleared that all away, we started going into Seoul, and there was a village called Yongdong-po, which was the outskirts, and that's where the resistance really hit as far as North Korean combat units were there. And our casualties were starting to come in now. And I was at that battalion aid station on the main road, and we were getting casualties in. And we had a helicopter come in and take out the casualties. But there was a lot of casualties coming in at that time. So my buddy and I were treating these wounded, and they said they need corpsmen up front there because there's a lot of casualties. So my buddy says, "Come on, John, let's go." I says, "What? I'm treating this guy." He says, "But we gotta go." I'm gonna go. So he went, and I didn't see him again for 50 years. He got wounded at Yongdong-po, and I didn't see him again until 50 years here in Arizona. And after that skirmish at Yongdong-po, we went into Seoul, and we were in Seoul on a Sunday morning. and we had to cross the Han River. And there we were using the Amtrak's then too. And at that time we started getting sniper fire. And you can tell when a sniper's got you in his sights because you hear that buzz, you know. And I was very fortunate there too, because then we went into Seoul in the afternoon sometime. And when it got dark, there was a lot of artillery going in and things like that. And they kind of leveled Seoul. It was just, everything was destroyed. And we didn't see very many people. But as we were going through Seoul, there was a lot of casualties with the snipers.
So as a medic, were you supplied with all the gear necessary to take care of
Yeah,
any
bag,
casualties?
just a medical bag with wound, morphine and bandages and all the things that we needed.
In the movies, you always see a wounded soldier and a corpsman show
Yeah.
up and give him a shot of morphine to reduce the pain and
Yeah.
start to take care of him. Is that similar to what you did?
Yeah, that's what we did. And then you have your plasma too, your blood plasma, you know, giving them blood and things like that.
You had all that available to you.
Yeah, that was available, but in the heat of battle, you know, there's so much chaos going on. So, it was
You were there in August,
in September.
on September. What
Incheon,
was the
September
weather
15th.
like crossing the
It
river?
was drizzling when we.
Cold?
Yeah, it was not cold because it was August or September, but there was it was kind of chilly. Yeah. And then when we got into Seoul, we had to go through a lot of barricades that they had set up, and so the tanks had to come through and clear that, and then the troops had to go in and clear out the snipers and everything.
When you started going from where you landed all the way to Seoul, that was a walking march? I mean,
Yes, it was.
you don't get to hitchhike and get in the car and say, hey, take me down to Seoul and drop me off.
No.
I think that's a piece of history people don't realize how many miles a soldier will walk
Oh, yes.
to fight in combat. I mean, to go into a battle. And I don't know exactly the distance, but do you remember how far that was from where you
It
landed?
had to be about 30 miles.
30 miles you walked. And during the warm days, obviously, fairly warm nights. What was the weather like around there? The atmosphere. I mean, whether like when I was in Vietnam, we had mosquitoes had tail numbers on them and stuff.
There was no tents or anything. We were in foxholes. We had to dig in, and that's where we slept and everything.
Did you start? Gate talks about the 30th parallel and digging
Yeah.
trenches.
Yeah.
Were you part of that
No,
group that
no,
started
that's-
doing that?
That's the ones I remember coming back from the reservoir. Yeah.
When you went into combat in Seoul, how much of a unit were you with? Were you
I was
a
in the
small
battalion
platoon?
aid.
Yeah, but were
That
you
was
with
I was back
you were back at a medic unit,
in a battalion aid station.
kind of like a MASH tent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And casualties were coming in.
You never did go like your buddy and go out on the front line.
No,
Okay.
because he called me and said, "Let's go. They need us." But he was up there with the line company.
Where
That's where the ones
he was doing medic work right there in the field.
right there. As Marines got hit, he was taking care of them. And then
How long did it take Seoul back? How long did
it
it take?
took about 3 days. 3 days.
And then once you accomplished that, then what
We
did you do?
accomplished that. We reorganized and got on a ship, went clear around Korea, and went back and forth on the east side because the port that we were going to land at was heavily mined. So it took those days to get those mines out of there. In the meantime, the Army had already gone through, followed us through, and went on up. And they were at Wonsan when we landed.
So they were already building the line, pushing them back. Did we get to the 30th parallel and stop, or did we go beyond that and then end up coming back?
We're not up there yet. We're
Okay.
still going north. We're still going north at Wonsan. We regrouped, got ready, and MacArthur said we're going to go north. And he didn't. He should have listened to his intelligence. The intelligence were poor. They said the Chinese were going to come in. And he didn't really believe, I guess. His general officers didn't give him the correct information of all the Chinese that were coming in.
So up to that point, you'd been fighting Korean. North Korean.
Koreans.
And now they were going to get supported by the Chinese
They're going to get supported by the Chinese.
in a big way.
In a big, big way, yes.
And Russia got involved also, were they?
Yeah, their planes started coming in.
So the Russians
supporting.
supplied
Yes.
air support.
They had MiGs, and we had our fighters that were there. So after Wonsan, we went up to Hangnam, which is a big port way up in North Korea. And from there, we moved on up slowly toward the Chosin Reservoir. When we got up to Chosin Reservoir, the 5th and 7th Marines went on up to the reservoir, and my unit, the 1st Marines, was the kind of reserve. We were set up at Coterie, which was about 15, 20 miles from the reservoir. So
You were back up the support.
Yeah, we were supporting. We were ready to go. Well, some of our units were called to go on up anyhow. So we were there and starting to get cold. Spent Thanksgiving in a foxhole, and they had a real nice turkey Thanksgiving dinner. And by the time you got it, it was froze almost. But anyway, it was real nice. So.
When you were in the field, when I was in the field, we had sea rations from World War II.
Yeah.
And we would heat our sea rations
Yeah.
usually with a cotton ball and some alcohol.
Yeah.
Did you do that in the foxholes?
They had those little, I don't know, burners like it. You could put a can on the top and it would warm it up and everything. Yeah, but with sea rations, I lived on sea rations.
Best diet I ever was on.
Oh, yeah. My favorite was the beans, spaghetti. Well, you know what it was like. It was, but anyway, and it was getting cold, and
We're into what month? Late
it was,
September,
we're up
October?
in December now.
Oh, December already. Yeah.
December 25th, I think. I know, no, December 17th. And that's when they really surrounded the Marines that were up there. They surrounded them, and like a lot of casualties were coming in then. We got some Chinese prisoners. I saw them, and their feet were caked with ice. They didn't have shoes. They had those little tennis shoes, but their feet were caked with ice, and I felt so sorry for them, but we were in the same boat as they were too, you know, so cold. Yeah.
Well, how did that impact our soldiers? We know I did a World War II soldier not long ago, and he about lost both of his feet crossing
Yeah.
the river over in
Yeah.
North Africa. Is that similar to what you guys ran into in December and January over there?
The
Was
cold weather,
Yeah.
it was
Did you get some casualties out of that?
probably one of the coldest winters in Korea. And a lot of our casualties was frostbite. Frostbite, yeah.
I think Gate talked about that with his hands,
Yeah, and
his feet.
And I got some frostbite and got a little disability out of it. But it's that cold weather that was and the casualties that came in. They had a landing strip up there that were able to evacuate a lot of casualties.
I don't think people understand. You know, when we're out there, I was just talking to a friend of mine in New York. During the monsoons in Vietnam, it didn't pay to put a poncho on
Oh,
because you're going to get wet anyways.
Yeah.
You might as well take your shirt off and enjoy the rain.
yeah,
And we didn't. Cold for us was maybe 70 degrees.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realize World War II, Korea, how cold it was and how our
25
soldiers
below
endured.
zero.
Yeah, and it wasn't like
Everything froze up. The trucks froze up. The ammunition froze up. Weapons froze up.
you couldn't go inside and just kind of warm up a little bit.
Well, we had warming tents, and at the battalion aid, we had our tent to take care of the
Frostbite
casualties.
stuff. Had you know, a good technique to take care of frostbite is warm oxygen.
Warm them, get them inside, get blankets on them, get that warmth into their body.
What percentage of your casualties during the winter did you see
I'd say 50%
were frostbite casualties
frostbite.
versus wounds or anything else?
And the cold weather helped some of the wounds because it froze the
Blood.
blood before it. Yeah. And the morphine we had to carry in our mouth because it would freeze.
Yeah, it's another thing that people who have not experienced those kind of battles understand what you had to go through,
Yes.
even to just help somebody.
Yeah.
You know, you had to keep the morphine warm by putting it in
Yeah.
your mouth,
Yeah.
and it certainly wasn't warm on your body outside either. So the conditions you had to work in
Yeah. Yeah.
were rather trying. And how long during that winter period did you serve in the cold? I mean,
In the cold, I think probably about from 27th of November, November till the 7th of December, I think, that period, between that period, yeah,
and
I think.
how did that impact the combat? You know, I just read a book on Civil War, or the War of England, and Washington's men during the winter they quit fighting, you know, because they didn't have shoes, they didn't have blankets,
That's right.
so they just huddled down for the winter,
Uh-huh.
and so did the English.
Yeah.
How was that in Korea?
Well,
Did it impact the Chinese that way?
the Chinese didn't have the equipment and clothing and things that we had. Plus, they were under attack every day by our corsairs, going in and finding them.
So we had a pretty good fighter squadron over there,
Good
of course.
fight, good corsairs saved our butt, yeah. And then they started dropping supplies to us, and some of the supplies landed in enemy territory, but most of it landed. And a couple of the parachutes landed in some of our tents where our men were too, so that was bad. Yeah.
So you were there for 8 months, so you got there in August, September,
October, November.
and spring started to come, battle started to pick
Yeah.
up.
By that time, we got evacuated from the Chosin Reservoir and came back, reassembled down near Pusan. And that was in January and February. Then we started pushing up because the Chinese and the North Koreans had already retaken Seoul and they were already coming down. So we were going up now and got a new commander. I forget what his name was. MacArthur was relieved of his duties, and we got a good general in there, Army general that knew what he was doing, and so we went up. Yeah,
So you had to retake Seoul
retake Seoul,
and push him back again.
push him back. But a lot of that fighting between that time period in the spring was mainly trench warfare like World War II, bunkers and things like that, because the Chinese would set up and everything. And the movies, Pork Chop Hill, Hamburger Hill, not Hamburger Hill, but Pork Chop Hill and those trench where they had to have frontal attacks. And my neighbor right across the street was with that Marine group. Yeah.
So the Chinese had established trenches,
Yeah.
and then you had to go
trench
take.
warfare, yeah.
Well,
On the mountains, on the mountaintops.
Gay talks about having trenches that he
There's
dug.
a-
Were those trenches the Chinese originally dug and they were captured?
They were dug in, yeah. Bunkers, little bunkers.
So you didn't do any of that?
No, no.
Trench. Where were you located at when they?
By that time, I was transferred from the Battalion 8. I went up to a line company, to the front lines, with a company up there.
Different atmosphere.
Different atmosphere, right?
So would they just bring the wounded right back to you, and you took care of them right there? And
Took care of them right there, and then they evacuated them to the Battalion 8 or hospital ship or something. Yeah.
yeah, did they have? What I remember seeing, like in movies, they had jeeps with bed
Yeah.
things on them.
MASH.
Is that kind of similar?
Yeah,
to
it was kind of similar to MASH. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the one ridge? Something ridge.
Heartbreak Ridge.
Yeah, was it similar to that with the
Yeah.
front lines?
That's it. That's that front line battles.
Yeah, that had to be the worst
Yeah.
combat.
But the main thing I remember about Korea, though, is the Marine casualties and all the suffering by our Marines and the people, the refugees that tried to follow us out of North Korea. Thousands.
We're going to end it there today. But thank you, Tim, for having that available on short notice. We'll finish our meeting up. We're going to need volunteers again for flags on November 11th, Veterans Day. And we'll put the flags throughout the community. So all the help we can get on that would be appreciated. And I don't know the time yet when we'll put those out, maybe whatever daybreak is, 7 maybe. We'll figure it out when we know the weather at that time. And at our last board meeting, it was brought up by Larry. We're having a hard time getting this space available with the technology we use now for our meetings. And we're running into the yoga class is ahead of us and doesn't get out. And so we're really struggling to get ready for the meetings. So we're going to now change the meetings to 10 o'clock. That'll give everybody an extra half hour sleep. And yes, we're trying to help you guys out. So we'll start in November, 10 o'clock meetings, and we should have everything up and running timely and the room set up and everything. So we'll put out some more notices on that, but it's going to be 10 o'clock from now on. And let's see, anything for the good of the cause? I do have, if we have any new members or returning members, I know we had one come this morning. So introduce him and just tell us branch of service and what you did, just a little bit. And when you came here so far.
Yes, my name is Dean Neiske, and my wife and I have been living here in Sunflower about 3.5 years. I was in Indiana National Guard from 1966 to 72. So obviously didn't see any active service. So the unit I joined was a command that eventually became airborne, but I had gone through basic training before it converted to an airborne unit.
That's it. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Okay, no good of the cause. Anybody else new or returning? No? Okay, then we are dismissed. Thank you all for coming.
David?
If you want to bring them in, I'll have